Well, thank you for watching this video that I've put together on my trip to Oklahoma on May 27th, 2025. In fact, I'm putting this together before we even get home. And we're still where we're staying in the DFW area with some friends. And so the story kind of starts there. We have been staying with some friends in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and have been able to see a lot of friends from when we lived here back from 2010 to 2013. And our daughter was born in Texas, and she has really been wanting to get back to visit. So we're visiting Dallas-Fort Worth, visiting some friends, catching up with some old friends. So it's good to be here. Decided to take one of those days to drive up to Oklahoma. This was something I never did when we lived here, and decided that I wanted to spend a day up in Oklahoma. The more I've studied some of the larger events that have happened in Oklahoma, tornado-wise and otherwise, severe weather-wise, really just wanted to go visit. There's some places and people up there that I've come to know, and I wanted to go up there and spend some time there. So took a day on Tuesday and drove up to Oklahoma. Left early in the morning, and the first place that I went to visit really was in three parts. The first one was I visited the National Weather Center. Now, the National Weather Center is sort of a place where different organizations are combined, different weather service offices, and as well as educational facilities for the University of Oklahoma, their meteorology school. And so there's a lot of things under one roof at the National Weather Center. I want to say it's like six stories high, something like that. It's a pretty good sized building. And so this was the first place that I visited. A lot of really cool stuff happens here. A lot of research, a lot of really neat stuff that happens exclusively to Oklahoma. You don't see facilities like this in Tennessee, for example. So it was a great place to visit. So I'll sort of walk you through what we did, what I saw here. I met up with Rick Smith, who is a friend of the program to National Severe Weather. And Rick is the warning coordination meteorologist for the Weather Service office in Norman. So he covers central Oklahoma. And so met with him there at the front desk, and we went into the lobby, and it sort of looks like an embassy suites a little bit. So you've got all these open floors, these open levels around the elevator area. It's a really cool sphere there with images on it from 4 different projectors that are projecting images on it. Really cool. A nice sort of weather wall with lots of different weather data and information, current conditions, broadcasts, different things on the wall there. There was also I believe the Oklahoma Weather Lab. I believe this is the forecast office for students, University of Oklahoma meteorology students. And what's great about that being in this building is that a lot of professors will come and visit with students in there sometimes. If it's a quiet day in central Oklahoma, the meteorologist from SPC or the Weather Service in Norman will come downstairs and visit with those students there in that forecast office, and they sort of have their own facility there. And so they get to collaborate and learn from these seasoned veteran meteorologists there at in just off the lobby of the National Weather Center. They're all in the same space, so it's very important in this building that everybody's sort of in the same place. Encourages collaboration. Students can easily access people that they want to talk to and learn more from. So really, really cool. So the first place we went was up to the top floor. And the top floor actually is an observation deck, an indoor observation deck. There's some little tables up there, little bistro tables and stuff where students can do homework. And we were there right after the semester ended, so there were no students. But went up there, and it's got a magnificent view of the South Metro, uh, you know, up to Oklahoma City, and then south down past, past Norman, down to the south. So really just an incredible view from up there. And as Rick said, there's been a lot of tornadoes that have been witnessed from that observation area. And sometimes security has to pull students out of there to get them to take shelter. But interesting place up there. So from there, we went on down to I believe it was the second floor. Could be wrong about that. I believe it was the second floor. And that is where the Storm Prediction Center is. So the Storm Prediction Center, any tornado or severe thunderstorm watches that are issued for the United States come from the Storm Prediction Center and come from this office with, I don't know, 4 workstations, let's say. And so I was able to see through the glass wall there and see some of the meteorologists who I've read their names for years on forecasts and discussions, and they were in there putting together forecasts, mesoscale discussions, severe and tornado watches. Things have been pretty active in the South, so they're kind of working on that. And so really interesting. That was good to learn about, and good to put some names with faces there. Right next door to the Storm Prediction Center is the National Weather Service Forecast Office for Norman and for Central Oklahoma. So they're very close. They're separated by a break room, basically. So they can collaborate if needed. Somebody from the Weather Service can go talk to somebody at the Storm Prediction Center, and that's very helpful for them, just operationally, workflow-wise. So went in and spent a little bit of time in the operations area at the weather forecast office there for Norman. Very interesting. We had a great discussion, Rick Smith and I did, about sort of the media market in Oklahoma City, which he, as a warning coordination meteorologist, he sort of deals with that. And so it's a very interesting market, very different from most markets. And it's a very aggressive weather market in the TV industry. So lots of competition to be first in about everything weather. And so we had a great conversation about how that operates and how that is a challenge sometimes. I've watched a lot of tornado coverage from the Oklahoma City television market from various stations, and it's quite an animal. So he had some great things to share about, I said, do you have the audio from all these chasers and TV meteorologists? Do you have the audio from Channel 4 and Channel 9 and all this going in here when you're issuing warnings? Because you got to wonder how that, the intensity of it affects the warning process when you really need to deal with facts and you're he said, no, we don't do that anymore. So they have the option of turning on audio from various channels at different workstations, but they're not all going at the same time. But it is very useful to have eyes on the ground when, the news stations have all their chasers out. That could come in real handy when, hey, Channel 4 has a great look at this wall cloud you're issuing a warning on or whatever. So it's invaluable to have that resource, but you have to temper it a little bit. It can get a little hot there in the television market when things really get going, and you don't want that to fuel your warning decision. So anyway, it's just really interesting to hear his perspective on that. Talked with Mark Fox, who is the meteorologist in charge at the Norman office. Got to talk to him a little bit and share a couple of stories, mutual friendships that we have. Good to talk to him. Let's see. From there, right kind of in between their offices there, from the Storm Protection Center and the Norman office, there is a break room in the back that they do share, but there's also a collaboration room. It looks like kind of a big conference room, an open conference room. There are computer workstations around the sides, various tables in the middle, lots of laptop hookups. lots of screens around the room. And this room, and I can't remember the name of it, but this was a room where, it's the test bed. I think it's the hazardous weather test bed. So this is where people come in from really all over the world, but a lot of people from the United States, a lot of Weather Service meteorologists come in, and I would imagine they even have some broadcast people come in and kind of test some social science things. But anyway, they use this room to really test some of the things that they are thinking about putting into play out to the public, technology-wise, how they issue warnings, different wording, a lot of social science baked into that. So how will people respond to this warning if we say this? How will people respond if we don't do a polygon, but do them a little differently with your maybe probability of being hit by a tornado instead of just a polygon, you're in or you're out? They're developing some different methods of how warnings might work in the future. Well, that's a hazardous weather test bed is the name of that room, and that's where they sort of put this stuff out and try it out. Really interesting. I can only imagine the ideas that have come out of that space, and that was neat to see. So from there, let's see. We sort of wrapped up the visit at the National Weather Center, but one other thing that was really interesting was we passed by the Oklahoma Mesonet office. So this is when I say office, I mean really a machine room, basically, where they maintain the Oklahoma Mesonet. Now, you're seeing a picture of a Mesonet station that's actually out in their parking lot. And it's an operational Mesonet station. This is one of many, and they have at least one in every county. Some counties have two, but there's at least one of these in every county. It is calibrated, reliable. It is up to standards. So the way they measure the wind is the same. The way, everything's the same, very standardized, much more reliable than just a bunch of personal weather stations that you bought off of Amazon in people's backyards. So this is a very standardized way to see the weather and the conditions around the state, at least one in every county. So very, very useful. A lot of states don't have this network. I wish Tennessee did. But there's one out in their parking lot. Was able to see that, check that out, things it measures. But they have that office there. That's all based there in the National Weather Center in Norman. Also saw, sort of out in their garage, I'll call it, saw a lot of the research trucks. So the research trucks were really interesting. They had a lot of instrumentation on them. He told me that those are actually leased vehicles. So a lot of them have been beat to death with hail, and they're pretty new vehicles, and these big pickup trucks, but just beat up pretty bad. But it's they use these vehicles for some really cool research. Also got to see the Doppler on wheels. Don't know all of the details on exactly what each vehicle is used for specifically, but a lot of the Doppler on wheels, these units are incredibly useful to measure very detailed schematics of tornadoes. They can get up pretty close to tornadoes, scan it with a radar that's just right there on the back of this truck, and get incredible detail. It's units like these that measured winds over 300 miles per hour in the El Reno tornado, which we'll talk about in a minute. So it's just incredible research that's done with these vehicles. So that was really cool to see as well. I left the National Weather Center and went on to El Reno, which was about a 40-minute drive, I want to say, 45-minute drive. So that was so El Reno is west of Oklahoma City. So you go up I-35 into Oklahoma City and then get on I-40, take it west, and went out to El Reno. Now, El Reno is a place of a famous tornado, mostly for bad. And this sort of began the part of my trip that was a little heavy. So the National Weather Center was incredible, and it was so much fun. But the rest of it was a little bit heavy. But it was good to see. It was good to see these places and these things. So I went out to El Reno. This tornado out there in El Reno, this was May 31st, 2013. and this tornado was 2.6 miles wide at its widest point, had winds over 300 miles per hour, and I'll tell you a little bit about it in this video. Had very interesting movement with it, but I'll share that with you here.
All right, I'm here at the memorial for the Twistex team. This was where the El Reno tornado tracked. This was in 2013, May 31st, 2013. Winds measured on radar in the funnel at 313 miles an hour. 313 miles an hour. And it was 2.6 miles wide. 2.6 miles wide. Came right through here. And this is where Tim Samaras and his team died. So Paul Samaras, Tim Samaras, his son Paul, and Carl Young. So this is where their car was blown off the road, and they passed away. An amazing setting here. This is obviously out in the middle of nowhere, just not too far south of I-40. Not too far south. The tornado rode along I-40 for a good while. But obviously a very different landscape than Middle Tennessee for sure. But it's pretty surreal standing in this spot where these guys died. Very, very experienced storm chasers. And this tornado was very erratic. It started west of El Reno. It dove southeast, and then it launched up to the northeast and wrapped back in on itself, and really surprised a bunch of guys who were very experienced. It's kind of surreal to be in that spot. And way off in the distance, I can see downtown Oklahoma City. That's wild. It's a county away. I'm in Canadian County. That's in Oklahoma County.
So tragic loss with El Reno. That was an incredibly powerful, very deceptive tornado, and obviously took the lives of some very experienced people that knew what they were doing. From El Reno, I went on to Moore. So Moore, Oklahoma. Okay, 2013 was a very busy year. So May 20th, 2013 was the nation's last EF5 tornado, and it was in Moore, Oklahoma. So it was very reminiscent of the May 3rd, 1999 tornado that went through Moore, and which had incredibly strong winds, unbelievably strong winds. This was very reminiscent of that. So May 20th, 2013, tornado began around the Newcastle area in southwest of Oklahoma City, southwest of Moore. Began around Newcastle, got pretty strong pretty quick. Had pretty quick indications that it was going to be a very strong tornado. Problem is it's just west of a metro area, right? So you hate to see that happen. It sort of reminds me of when the Nashville tornado formed in 2020, and we saw the debris signature there just west of downtown Nashville at John C. Toon Airport. And, well, that's a really bad sign because that's moving into a populated area. Well, similar thing with Moore on a much bigger level. This thing wrapped up really fast. It was very powerful, strong mesocyclone, and the tornado quickly became a barrel-shaped tornado that was violent pretty quickly and went right into Moore. Well, Moore is a populated city, so you have a lot of neighborhoods, a lot of subdivisions, a lot of schools. It's a populated area. So the tornado went through the neighborhoods in the west side of Moore. It destroyed 2 elementary schools. It destroyed the Plaza Towers Elementary. And the Plaza Towers Elementary, being one of those schools that was destroyed, it killed 7 students in that school. Very sad situation. So I don't believe anybody died at the other elementary school, but at Plaza Towers they lost 7 kids. So at that point the tornado was violent. It had just achieved EF5 strength between the 2 elementary schools, and I actually drove by the 3 or 4 houses that those lots were where the EF5 damage was observed by the experts there that were rating the tornadoes. So that was kind of sobering driving by those houses. Of course, they're new houses now, newish. They were built back, but those just few houses. I mean, you're talking about 30 or 40 yards long. Was right where that EF5 damage was, which takes, it does some extraordinary things to houses at EF5 strength. Not much. I mean, it cleans them off the slab. So the house that your slab is wearing is not yours after an EF5 if there's anything left on it. Very devastating. So I went to Plaza Towers Elementary. I knew they had a memorial out there. Rick had told me there were some benches and things to see, but I wasn't prepared for the plaque that had the names of the kids. I've researched that tornado for 10 years or so. I know most of the streets that it traveled on. I recognized almost every street name that I drove down just because I know very, very well what this tornado did and where it traveled. And but I've never known the names of those kids that died in that school building. Names are important. That was something that has become more important to me as I've gotten older, that names are important. And whether it's people who lost their lives in the Covenant shooting in Nashville that we were very involved with afterward, whether it's the 7 kids at Plaza Towers Elementary, names are important, and it's important that we remember their names. So I wasn't really prepared to read those names of those precious children. Watch this video.
Okay, I'm here at the Plaza Towers Elementary. This is where 7 children were killed. And they have a beautiful memorial out here. I've known a lot about this tornado, and I've never known their names. Precious kiddos. A lot of them lived in this neighborhood right over here. There was F5 damage in this neighborhood. Completely swept the foundations completely clean. their parents would run over here, try to find them. It was really tough. Really tough, but I've never known these kids' names. It's good to see them.
That was heavy. It caught me off guard. That was an emotional moment. It's very easy to get wrapped up in the maybe the fantasy world of tornadoes, sort of what you see in the Wizard of Oz and the Twister movie, the new Twisters movie. But they can be absolutely devastating. From there, I drove around quite a bit. I went to a place where I recognized the name of. There were many times that I heard that the Warren Theater was about to get hit by this tornado. Heard about the Warren Theater many, many times on the television coverage. Drove by the Warren Theater. The tornado actually took a weird track. It actually went northeast and then almost due north, did a little loop-de-loop right there near the Warren Theater, and then the Warren Theater was missed. So the tornado ended up hitting the Moore Medical Center next door to the Warren Theater, but it left the Warren Theater. It was a very interesting track. And from there, after I left there, I grabbed some lunch at Chick-fil-A, got a tank of gas, and headed back to DFW for a Rangers game. So it was an amazing trip. Amazing trip, even for the heavy stuff. Some of the emotions that I wasn't expecting going down there, it still was very much a worthwhile trip. I wish I could have spent another day or two up there to explore some more. But really an amazing trip, and for this Middle Tennessee guy who doesn't find many excuses to go to Oklahoma, it really was something for about 10 years I've been wanting to do, and it was good to have been there. So thanks for joining me on this little video journal, I guess I should say, about that trip. It was really interesting, and appreciate you being a part of it, watching here.